Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, coming at you with something I've been bullied into, I guess. We did Grail Knight week. God, it was actually a good couple of weeks ago now, a couple of months ago now at this stage, where we spent an entire week, Monday to Friday, getting a squad of Grail Knights painted up and ready for the tabletop. Each day doing a different Bretonnian colour scheme and bashing through those kind of elite knights. You guys loved that series. All the views on every video was very good. And I talked about the idea that in the future I would love to revisit this idea, but moving on to questing nights. Questing nights being much more personal. Each one is like a little character, a little hero. And I would love to do them in a similar series, Monday to Friday, getting one done. You guys took that idea and ran with it, and literally in the comment section of every single old world video is people asking for questing night week. So that's what I'm going to deliver to you guys this week, is that. So I have gotten 6 questing nights built, sprayed, and ready for the tabletop. I will be painting one up each and every day, Monday to Friday, and some of you clever people out there will have noticed that 5 days and 6 nights doesn't quite equate well. On my Twitch streams, this week, Tuesday and Thursday evenings between 8 and 10 p.m. Irish time, I paint online, and I will be painting up another questing night then. So basically my entire content this week will be based around questing nights, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So in today's one, we were going to do a very fun and interesting one, the concept being the banner bearer. Now the banner bearer of a questing night squad is actually blind. He is bandaged around his face, covering up his eyes, and he has a little page or a squire or attendant, or maybe just some poor peasant boy that he bought, or I don't know, sitting on his back with a periscope or telescope looking out over the battlefield, and he basically tells the gracious knight where to go, left or right or straight or stop or any of those kind of things, while he bravely carries the banner. Now this knight is actually a bit of a jerk. He was always very kind of boisterous. He was always very bigging himself up. He considered himself to be the finest questing knight. The rest of the squad pretty much didn't enjoy his company, and when he was blind, now he just singularly talks about the idea, well, if I wasn't blind I would be able to do this better than you, or that better than you, or so on and so forth. So it was a little bit of revenge for them. They took his standard household heraldry, which was black and white, and they dyed it. So now this knight is traveling around in pink and white, and he has absolutely no idea about it. He still thinks he's a glorious black knight on the battlefield, but he is not. So I think it'll be a fun idea today to paint up that knight, that banner bearer, in a pink and white color scheme. It should be actually quite a tricky one to do. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I'm going to go with the most difficult knight first, and then we'll worry about the rest of the nights later on in the week. I have no set idea for color schemes. I'm fairly sure my top patrons' family heraldry might just be used this week to give them their own personal knights, but I need to go and look into that and see what the color schemes actually are and see if they will fit the designs. Before I get into it, guys, I'm just going to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. You guys are amazing. Without you guys, I could not continue doing what I am doing. If you're interested in getting involved with that, links in the description below. You get access to a private Discord server and an extra video every single day, Monday to Friday. I do a mini vlog series where I talk about what I've gone through that day, what I'm working on, plans, and you guys can help me kind of navigate through with my channel, deciding on what videos we should make or how we should make them or color schemes and stuff like this. So they firsthand knew I was doing Grail Knight week or questing night week, and we've been chatting about it all day, so that's a lot of fun. Okay, I know this has been a very lengthy intro and I do apologize for that, so without further ado, let's get stuck into the first questing night. So this is the beautiful questing night banner bearer. It might be one of the nicest Bretonnian miniatures that has ever been made. I truly believe that. The banner was incredible. Actually, before this model got built, before I kind of knew the old world's come back, I actually cut this guy's arm off and stole this flag to use in a Sister Battle Army, and then of course regretted it when the old world was coming back out. So on Twitch one of the days we did do a rebuild job to his right hand up to the elbow is actually a plastic miniature, and we remade him a banner pole. He got him all kind of fixed and sorted and repaired, so I am very happy to have him as a whole piece once again, and to be getting him painted up. Now, having said that, about halfway through this video process I realized he's supposed to have a bloody shield. I just didn't consider questing knights to have shield, and I kept looking at his arm in that weird pose, and I was like, why has he got his arm like that? Is he supposed to like be simulating him holding the reins? I don't know. But then when I looked at some kind of reference photos of him, he does indeed hold a shield. And the shield is a beautiful kite shield with a sword going through the middle of it. And I remember distinctly having that piece somewhere recently, and I can't find it. I will dig through my bits and pieces. I will find it. I will get it painted up to match this model and glued on by the end of this week. I promise you that. But for this particular video, unfortunately, this Questing Knight is going to be missing his shield. So I apologize for, like I said, that weird pose his left arm is in when it's just kind of held up. It almost looks like it belongs in a sling. Now, like I said at the beginning of the intro of this video, I always thought it was a funny idea that this particular knight is blind. Perhaps he was supposed to stop being a knight, but he refused to. He was too stubborn, or his honor wouldn't allow him to. So he insisted that he continue to fight alongside the rest of his knights. And perhaps he has led the rest of his knights into a few folly charges because he can't see where he's bloody going. And they're a little bit unhappy with him, which then may have led to the practical joke of changing up his heraldry colors. He thinks he goes to battle wearing glorious black and white like a Templar of old, charging headlong and striking fear into the heart of the enemy. Where in kind of realistic fashion they have made him as bright and obnoxious as humanly possible, perhaps maybe to attract a couple of arrows and maybe see the plight on this unit be receive a glorious death. Perhaps anyone can pick up their own idea and story as to why this prank was done on this poor helpless knight. But he seems to have held his own. He's a grizzled veteran. He seems to be able to tell where he's going due to the fact that he has a little squire who has bolted to the back of him. He's holding on for dear life. And in the process of painting up this particular miniature, it turns out that the squire has a little hook for a hand as well. That's what's holding him onto the back of the knight. So perhaps this kind of grievously wounded / crippled knight took pity on a crippled squire. No one else would take him, so he took him and found a use for him. So they ride into battle gloriously together, which kind of makes it a really cool story, and I really like it. A really heartfelt moment. But as you can see, at this point, I am just throwing contrast colors on, getting him ready for shading. And then, of course, we're going to build up our paint. Now, just like we did with Grail Knight Week, I'm trying to avoid calling Grail Knight Week Questing Knight Week and Questing Knight Week Grail Knight Week as I do this whole process this week. I'm sure I'll get it mixed up sometimes, but this time, hopefully not. Now, while we were doing Grail Knight Week, we basically did the same process. We base coated and washed the miniatures with contrast and shade. And then after that, we layered up using the Too Thin Coats range of paints. I found it to be a very enjoyable process. And like I talked about extensively in that one, it meant that all the units and all the models in that tones matched across the entire thing. So that's what I'm going to try and replicate in this exact week. So like I said, contrasts, standard Games Workshop metallics, and then most of the time they will get a null and oil shade all over. Very quick, very easy to do. And then we'll use the Too Thin Coats range to layer up the knights as beautiful as possible, make them stand out and glorious. Now, like I said, I have 6 knights to paint. I know that this one is going pink and white. As for the other 5, well, other 4. The Bretonnian Lord miniature, the Bretonnian Lord with Great Weapon, is another model that I'm using as a questing knight. Now, it turns out I talked to my patrons this morning about that when I gave them my daily update of what I was planning, that they pointed out that when that model was originally sold, he was sold as a Bretonnian Lord who had taken the questing vow. And that's why he matches in so well. So I have no qualms about taking that beautiful miniature and using him as a questing knight. So that works for me. So the thing about him is he has molded embossed filigree already on him and is the axe symbol, which correlates to the red and black scheme. So that is where I'm going to base that guy. So he's going to be the red and black armored one. But as for the other 4 knights, I have no concept of what color schemes they are going to be. I have 2 Patreon members at the highest tier, and I would love to reward them for that by using their family heraldry as 2 of these knights. I think that'd be really cool. So I think that might be what I'm going to do tomorrow and the day after. I'm going to use their personal heraldry. I need to find out what their personal heraldry is to make sure that it is doable and it is fun and it is not going to kind of match any of the knights I did for Questing Knight Week, because I don't want them to see. I did it already for Grail Knight Week. There we go. Strike 1, first mistake. I don't want to reuse any of those color schemes. I want them all to be quite unique. Another thing is I'm kind of planning the story around kind of my area of Bretonnia, which is the bottom left. That is where the kind of red and black province is. It's called I can't say the name of it. But if you look at the new old world map of that particular province of Bretonnia borders basically an entire country of blank. I think it's supposed to be where the Spanish area is supposed to be. I can't remember the name of it now. But there's basically a whole blank province in there. And then I'm starting to put together this whole story as to why all these different Bretonnian houses are sending knights, why I'm going to paint up detachments of man-at-arms and whole detachments of dogs of war, which are going to join this force, this kind of hodgepodge army defending this border. And I like the idea of what is beyond that border. The rest of the world doesn't know, but this particular province has been tasked with defending it. Like the movie The Great Wall, or like the Wall in Game of Thrones. It is this militaristic force that has many soldiers flocking to it to defend the realms. It's a very cool concept, I feel, and will allow me to do things like take my Dogs of War units, which I have many of, and get them painted up for this force, perhaps using some of the Bretonnian color schemes, like the red and black scheme for a unit of Alicante pikemen, or the Birdmen unit for something like that, which I think would be fantastic. But as it currently stands, getting up these questing knights painted has been something I've been wanting to get done for I don't know how many years. I think they've always been the most daunting Bretonnian knight unit to paint. It definitely has the most detail. Like I said, each one of them is basically a character. They're so unique. They have so much personality. And there's quite a few special sculpts out there that I will have to now hunt down. One of them returned when the Quest Knights got brought back. One that was never released before got brought in, which I'm very excited. So I'll have to buy a set of those. And then there's two other Quest Knights which never got released to the general public, which is... but people do get their hands on them. They are on eBay, but they do cost a fortune. So if I get this particular week of questing nights done and I really like the result, then perhaps I will spend a small fortune to get those extra miniatures and get them added into this force. As you can see, I'm building up that pink through the different ranges of colors from the Two Thin Coats range. Always getting nervous when I jump from the mid-tone to the highest highlight, because I always feel like it's so bright. It's such a big jump. And I'm nervous that I'm kind of ruining the work that I've already done. But experience has taught me that this is not the case. You just trust the process, you trust the color triads, and you just go with it. You layer it up and you will be thankful you did. The final result will be really nice, which is what I found here. Pink is not a color that I work with an awful lot, and frankly, since I played through Cyberpunk from start to finish, I've had this itch to paint something pink. This hasn't quite scratched that itch just yet. There is something else out there. There's got to be a project or a unit or maybe even an army that has a lot of pink in it, and I'm still looking for that perfect project to get it done. But as it stands, this is the pinks done on the model, and I'm quite liking the result. Now it's time to work up the other side, the whites. So I'm jumping straight to the mid-tone. I'm going for Ivory Tusk out of the Two Thin Coats range. I am going to do two thin coats of this paint to kind of build up that color and give me a nice working place for the final highlight, which is kind of like a white. White is another color that I tend to stay away from as much as possible. I tend to go for off-whites when I want to paint anything like that, because I find it much more useful, much more easy to do, and a much more enjoyable process. But with this one, I'm going to try and go up with the Trooper White, which is the next step up from this color in the Two Thin Coats range, and see if I can kind of pull off what I want to pull off and get it looking kind of nice. And it is funny, you do get the option to go as crazy as you want to with Bretonnians. You can do literally almost any color combination and build out this kind of crazy cohort of miniatures. And if you really wanted to, if you took your time and you did each model as an individual color scheme, which is a suggestion for a lot of Bretonnian players do that. It's kind of the traditional way of doing it, but it's quite difficult. That's why I'm kind of going unit by unit as its own color. I find that much easier to do. Each unit becomes a little project. But as a painter, you could do a Bretonnian army and literally spend a week on each night making these glorious works of art. And there are beautiful artists out there who have taken that kind of concept and have ran with it. And the results they're getting, the things I see on Instagram just make my jaw hit the floor. We talked about on my Twitch stream the other day about the concept of, you know, if you had one army, what would be your one army? And those creators or those hobbyists out there, which are just kind of like one army hobbyists, which is kind of an interesting concept. They get to spend that much time and lavish their attention on an army, have every different unit painted every different way because that's what they like to do. It's kind of a crazy concept for me. It's something I don't think I'll ever get to do or get to experience. But I definitely like to take my projects one project at a time, and I tend to get sucked in quite heavily and do way more than I need to. And my Bretonnian project is definitely starting to look that way. I'm only originally intended to paint kind of 1,500 points for this tournament in Warhammer World I'm going to in April, but I think I've already over 2,000 points painted, and I've got another 5 or 6 units planned, and I'm loving it. I truly am just loving the entire experience of getting this army finally built and painted and finally getting it on a tabletop. I have another game planned this Saturday, so if I manage to get all of my questing nights done by then, perhaps I will change around my list a little bit and get this unit on the table. I'm actually recording that game as well for a battle report, so even more content for you guys based around the old world. So if you're enjoying that, like I said, make sure you do stick around and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell to be notified for all the future updates, and you won't miss out on any of my videos. This banner has to be one of the most detailed and crazy kind of overlapping banners full of detail that exists in Warhammer. I mean, it is already a beautiful banner, and then it's got chains with medallions and medals hanging off it, and then it has 2 big huge pieces of parchment over the back of it. It's got a huge header, a card, a book bolted to the top of it. It is just so detailed. 2 swords are stabbing down through the middle of it. You have to pay attention because those blades do actually protrude through the back of it. You got to make sure to get them tidied and painted up as well. Going in there with a bit of red as a contrast color, using that to paint all the sheaths of the swords, all the handles of the swords. Like I said, this model actually does have 4 swords on it, which is kind of bizarre, since how he's holding none. There's 2 through the banner, 1 on his hip, and the little squire page dude who is stands on his back of his saddle is carrying another sword. So you got to paint 4 swords when you paint this guy. What does a blind guy need with 4 swords? Well, I guess he keeps missing with them and dropping them. Maybe it makes sense. I don't know. Going in there and taking my time and highlighting the face now. Like I said, there's lots of sharp detail in these beautiful metal sculpts. So going in there and just hitting kind of the higher points after you've base coated and washed really does kind of add this kind of pop of color. And then going right again to the very final highlight for some Kislev flesh, or some elf flesh, sorry. And just the very tips of the nose, top of the forehead, chin, that kind of detail. And like I said, the entire time I have been painting up this knight, I have of course been painting his little kind of squire attendant guy at the same time. So whenever I needed to paint pink, I paint pink, white, brown, metallics. So he has been getting painted the whole way along. I just didn't really have the time in the video to show you every step on him. You got some blondie hair, which is basically the same kind of colors I used for the parchment. I gave him a little quartered pink and white color scheme on his uniform, which is pretty cool. And like I said, he has a helmet and a sword kind of chained over his back, and he's looking through a telescope, which I think is pretty cool. Using some metallics now to highlight all of the other metallics. I've got an Ironbreaker, nice, bright and shiny, and I'm using it to highlight all the silver and gold parts of the model, making those bits pop and stand out loads. It's a very quick and easy step, but it's what I've always done for my metallics ever since I started painting my Black Templars a couple of years ago. This is the kind of technique that I've lent on, and ever since then it has been working a treat for me. This is the repaired arm. This is actually a plastic forearm and hand. And with that done, I've added all of the transfers to him and glued his little attendant to the back, which has finished off the first questing night, the banner. I'm so pleased to have this model painted. The pink and white, I think, turned out great. I'm really happy with it, although I was doing it as kind of a joke. I knew, or at least like in my head, the finished product was nice and I was looking forward to seeing it. It wasn't one that I'm kind of throwing this beautiful model away for a scheme that I don't enjoy. I definitely liked how it turned out, and on the battlefield I definitely think it's going to stand out a mile. It's going to look like the banner off of a special unit, and like I said, I can't wait to see it fielded. I cannot wait already. Since the first guy is done, I've put it in the first slot in the Lance formation tray that I have for these guys, and I'm just waiting for kind of Thursday to put in the 5th guy and Friday to put in the last guy and the 6th guy and see what this entire unit is going to look like, all finished in all their beautiful colors. Like I said, I'm going to do this little clip here at the end of every day where you see the Lance formation tray finished up, and we place the banner bearer in his prime position. So that means you have to do the musician and the champion next. Okay guys, there we have it. The first questing night is now built, painted, pink and white, and ready for the tabletop. That was actually quite a lot of fun to do. Thankfully, once again, the Two Thin Coats range of paints saved my bacon. and gave me a result that I was quite pleased with. Like I said, we have 4 more nights to do this week and a 5th extra one being done on my Twitch stream. So you want to check those out, I'll leave links in the description of my Twitch stream as well. And you can go and join us there. We hang out twice a week, we do some hobby, we have some good chats, and we just keep ourselves kind of motivated in the hobby. It's a really nice, friendly atmosphere. So if that's something that might interest you, please do feel free to join along. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, ask me any questions you want in the comments below, and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the opportunity to win a 40k Titan in the near future. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.